Welcome to yesterday's Airlines, and in this video I'm going to be taking a look at some more of FantasyWings' new ground service equipment and airport paraphernalia. And as you can see in this video, that is going to focus on lights. And in the background you can see that I've got a 6-pack of the FantasyWings light pylons, and forward of that, just in front of the A350, you can see we've got a couple of other alternative light pylons. So in this video we'll take a look at each of these and see which one looks best on your 400 scale model airport, and talk a little bit about this kind of addition. Okay, now if you haven't seen the other videos, then FantasyWings, they're a bunch from Hong Kong. They're producing quite a wide range of high quality, mainly plastic, ground service equipment, GSE, or airport related buildings and equipment, such as these lightings pylons. And it's available, or their products are available from a majority of, standard kind of die-cast stores nowadays. So if you're looking around at somewhere like Prairie Die-Cast or RM Models, Waffle Collectibles, ARD, all these shops, then they're going to be selling FantasyWings products, I would have thought. So they're easy to get hold of, and they really are expanding the range of what is available to use for your die-cast model airports, which is great, because for a long time there's really been not a lot which is easily available to acquire, and you found yourself, sorry, searching around trying to find ground surface equipment. And I've picked mine up over the years from a variety of second-hand sources, and it's all kind of hard to get, and you didn't even know it existed, and then suddenly you see it and you pick it up. So even though over the years Dragonwings and Gemini and Aeroclassics have all made GSE, and so is jcwings, it's hard to find, and of variable quality. Some of it's incredibly old. So it's great that there's somebody new in that marketplace and focusing on this, and FantasyWings really do seem to be doing some interesting things with GSE and airport bits and bobs. So in this video, as I said, it's over to looking at the light poles. Okay, so what do you get for your money with this pack? Well, as you can see, you get 6 of these lighting poles for to make the set. I think Waffle sells them individually, which is super weird, but nonetheless you get 6 of these, and they come in nice packaging, and as per usual they've got the contact information for FantasyWings, their Instagram and Facebook and so on the back, and a bit of an image there with a jcwings 747. So there's not much more to the packaging there. Let's open it up, which is quite handy. You can do that without destroying it, which is super useful, because it's really annoying when you try and open these kind of packages usually and end up ripping the cardboard. So you can literally just take that off, and you can reattach it afterwards, because you've got these handy little clips here. So that's really cool. So I've thought about that, and it's nice to see the manufacturers thinking about how you're actually going to produce and sell these in the future if you need to. Now, what you've got here, as you can see, there's 6 of them, so let's take one of them out and get a closer look at what this looks like and how this works. Now, the first thing that's obvious with these pylons is, if I can just maybe put one up on a stand, is just the attention to detail here. Now obviously it's just a pole really, it's not enormously difficult, but it's surprising how much detail they've managed to put on. And what's particularly nice is at the base of the pole here, the support, which not only means it doesn't fall over all the time, but also it gives it some really nice detail. As you can see, you've got the red kind of warning strips, you've got this yellow box, and you've got some other equipment here. I just don't know what it is, but it looks cool, and it really gives this some nice detailing at the base of the stand, which makes this look a lot more realistic. So that's really good. Whoops, they just will fall down sometimes. Now as you move up to the top of the light, you can see again, if I just zoom in a bit, if I can get this to focus, which is probably a challenge because it's such a small thing. There we go, it's a good age. Okay, cool. So got this in focus, and you can see underneath that you've actually got, so again, some nice detailing. The lights themselves are in silver, and they're not all the same colour as the pole and the frame, and you can see underneath you've actually got space for where you can see the bulbs would be on the lights, which is really nice, and good detailing, and across the top again. Some nice detailing, probably more than they have to do. So that's actually a really nice detailing on this as a whole. And I think that, as you can see, even though it's a simple thing, a light pole for your airport, you know, it doesn't need to be spectacular necessarily. It actually looks surprisingly high quality and very good, which is nice, because, you know, this kind of GSE can really jazz up how your airport looks. Now, if we take a look at some of the competition, if you can call it competition, there isn't a great deal of it in this scale. Then what I have here is I've got this lighting pole, which I acquired from Airline manufacturer, and they are a Chinese outfit that do something similar to FantasyWings. Most of their stuff can only be acquired through their Taobao store, I think. And actually they produce some good stuff. And this actually is quite a nice lighting pole. And you can see that they've got to some level of detail here at the base as well. And again, the lights themselves are actually quite intricate and unusual, and very different to what you're getting from the FantasyWings set, where they're like a radial light. Here you've got this kind of light fixture where they're punching out the front here. That's actually quite nice. And there's a lot of detail. But what there is lacking on this, unlike on the FantasyWings, is obviously any kind of detail painting. It's just a silver pole, and it's very silver. In fact, it really would be improved with some colour down here at the base, and also some colouring and change of colour up here on the top. The other thing about this, which has always slightly perplexed me, these lights, and why I feel slightly uneasy about them, is just their size. They are big. You know, if you look at them in comparison to the set here from FantasyWings, they're substantially taller, and whenever I've used them on the airport, I've always felt that was perhaps not perfect. And we'll do a comparison with a model in a little bit. Now, the third option, and I think there are only these three options for lights that you can come pre-built, is actually this one, which is a lot smaller, as you can see, and a lot flimsier. And the reason that it is smaller and flimsier is because it is Herpers, and it is actually 500 scale. Now, it's not often you can get away with using 500 scale with 400 scale models, but in this case I think you can. These are reasonably accessible and relatively cheap, and they're actually not bad. Now, they don't have a huge amount of detail, and they've actually got a very similar kind of structure in terms of the radial nature to the new FantasyWings, but the lights don't look quite as good, and there's certainly not the same level of detailing on them. But they do the job. They are substantially shorter, but not too short, I think, that you can't still have them next to a 400 scale plane. Now, one of the issues with them, as you can tell here, is that I'm struggling to get the thing to stand up, and that's because the base is tiny. So when you put them down or something, you really have to get them to stand up. I mean, I fixed that there we go. I fixed that historically just by using a bit of blue tack on the base of them, and they stand up fine. And actually, they look pretty good, and I use these on my model airport quite a lot at the moment, but mainly because they've been the only ones really available to acquire. So it's interesting that FantasyWings have brought up this new set of poles, which I think, you know, are actually probably a nice intermediary between the two existing ones. The base is certainly better than both of them, and in terms of the size, I actually think this is actually a good intermediate size as well, and they don't really get in your face. So that's good as well. Now let's have a look at how these might look with an actual aeroplane nearby. So we've got, I'll move these along, we've got this ngmodels A350 here. The model itself is kind of irrelevant, but you can see the aeroplane, and if we put the first one in place, which is, say, this one, you can see here, it's a good size. It's perhaps a little large, but it does the job nicely, especially on a remote stand, which let's assume this is, then it looks pretty good. I found the problem with these airline manufacturer ones is they're quite expensive, and if you've got a large airport, they're a challenge to get enough of. So I've typically used the little Herper ones, which, as I say, is a pain to get to stand up, but once you get them to stand up, they look pretty good. They're not too small, and they certainly, when you're using an narrow-body aircraft, they stand up quite nicely with that, no real problems. So I think that they're a good option. But I do think that these new FantasyWings lights have got a lot to recommend them. If you push that one over there, then it's a good size and it fits very nicely with the aeroplane. I think that I could see myself using these quite a lot. Okay, now shifting over to one of my model airport dioramas, you can see that I have typically used these little Herpa 500 scale ones, and they actually stand up quite nicely and look pretty good. So I don't have a major problem with them, and I'll probably carry on using them. But let's see how the new FantasyWings lights look when you put those on a diorama. Okay, so moving over to Terminal 1, which has never actually acquired any lighting, unlike Terminal 2 of this airport diorama, then it's a good opportunity to show kind of how these new light fixings might look if you put them on. So let's put one, say, in place here. And you can see that it actually stands up really nicely. And in fact, I'm just going to go and get the others. So let's get the others out of the packet and put them on, and let's see kind of how this now looks. Where would I be putting the... Got to find a spot for the light fixings. So let's maybe put one here. And similarly, if we move that out of the way, put one perhaps here. And over the other side equally needs to have lights too, obviously. So maybe say one there. And perhaps there as well. And I've got one more. Let's see how that one can fit. And maybe something like that. So there we go. We've got the light fixings in place now. They actually look really good. I need to put more aircraft on this pier at the moment, but if you look at these in association with the terminal, then they stand out quite nicely as independent units. They've got really good detailing, and I think that they, you know, play their part very well. Okay, so yeah, there we go. FantasyWings are, you know, trying lots of new things like this. Areas where very few have trodden previously, as I say. I've only seen these previous two types, the airline manufacturer ones, which are almost impossible to get in the West, and the small Herpa 500 scale ones. And what FantasyWings are bringing to this GSE is quite a lot of detailing, you know, at the base, and got colouring, a high quality product. So I think that if you've got a diorama, then, you know, you need to be trying to look into adding this sort of realism. I think actually these lights may even work better if you've got remote stands, because we've got this nice base unit here which stand out very nicely. But, you know, they're really a good set. The only problem, as always with GSEs, is you need to get enough for your whole airport. I've got, how many gates on this terminal? On this terminal alone, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on that pier, and then there's another 5 on that pier. So I need to get another set of these at least to fill out this terminal. And if I was going to obviously replace all the lights, then it gets rather expensive for the lights, and typically I like to spend the money on the aircraft rather than the GSE. But nonetheless, I think that there's a lot of potential here, and certainly for smaller dioramas where you've got 6 gates, you know, 1 or 2 sets of these will really light up your model. Okay, well, thank you very much to FantasyWings for sending me through these sets. I'm going to have to go and buy some more now, I can see, but I think that these add all the quality. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you do, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, check me out at the website yesterdaysairlines.com. Obviously, always on Facebook and Instagram at Yesterday Airlines. And thanks very much for watching, guys. I'll see you later.